Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. This is Yankees Unloaded, and it's Yankees Unloaded with two smiling faces after a huge win, probably one of the biggest wins of the year against the Baltimore Orioles, 4-1. Vivas was called up, so we started off the day with some great news, and then he wasn't in the lineup. And Gary, I was on a golf course. I got the news, like just going through. We started at 10. We got through 18. And on the wraparound, going back to 1, I look at the phone and I'm like, what is this? This is rancid. I sent that to you and you're like, you were just laughing. You're like,
I about had a stroke. It's so
you called it reprehensible.
reprehensible. I was talking like Frank the Tank at that point. It was terrible, right? And I don't really know who thought, what this team really needs is it B-Boss? Is that the correct terminology there?
I'm probably still going to call him Vivas because I can't. But yeah, it is B-Boss technically.
So we call him up. Clearly an upgrade athletically. And most people thought, okay, this is an upgrade for third base. He's a clear upgrade offensively. I actually don't know if there's a single player on the Yankees roster that you wouldn't consider an upgrade over DJ LeMahieu situationally, just offensively. Don't tell me about defense. Don't tell me about LeMahieu's defensive rating. I don't care about that. Okay. We care about the bat. The Yankees' problem right now is offense. And today in general, I think we all expected to see B-Boss at third base. I know you mentioned before the game, you were like, no way they'd put him at second base, right? No, that they actually didn't either. They didn't put him at third or second. Just an insane use of your assets today. I didn't get it, but I digress because, of course, we won this game. We'll definitely cover the win. For one, Jake, I want to bring up what I thought was the most ridiculous part of this game was Heston Erstad getting hit in the 9th inning of this game. It's obviously downpour. It's a 4-1 game. I guess they're still in the game with Clay Holmes out there pitching. But for this 25-year-old, to be quite honest with you, non-major factor, he's had 81 career at-bats. For him to come into this series, which is much bigger than him, and think that Clay Holmes, on a team who's lost 8 series in a row, is trying to hit you and put the tying run on base, are you smoking?
Did he think
That's
that,
what
though?
I need to know.
Did he think that, or was it like, because I mean, he got his bell rung, and I hope he's okay, because I'll always say, I mean, I talked about, I don't know if it was our show or the show before you came back, but I mentioned how we don't root for injuries on this show. It doesn't matter. Nope. I brought up LeMahieu. I said, LeMahieu got hurt or banged up or whatever. And while maybe him not being in the lineup helps the Yankees, I hope he comes back because I'm not rooting for anybody to get hurt. It's no different on any other team. And so I want to start off by saying I've been hit in the head before, and it hurts like hell. I actually got totally drilled in the head where part of my helmet actually broke off, when I was playing baseball back in the day. But they're not throwing 90 when I was playing. So I understand. Now, did I get up and, well, I didn't see Kirstead get up, but did my manager at the time go over and start pointing his finger at the bench and, starting a giant brawl? No, because my manager had more composure than a major league manager.
You got to have some feel there. Is this guy even remotely trying to do this? If the answer is no, that would be devastating for him to put you on base.
Holmes of all people, man. He's been wild this year. I mean, he's got to get any semblance of a rhythm going before the All-Star break. He himself couldn't believe he was an All-Star. Okay? He had already made plans with his family. He sounded inconvenienced by this. Like, oh man, I was already set up to go on vacation with he had no idea. So that's where Clay Holmes is right now, folks. Clay Holmes was not trying to injure anybody. Well, we may call Clay Holmes out for poor play. The last thing I'm going to do is say that he's trying to hit guys intently.
He probably wanted a break at the All-Star game just from a standpoint of resetting what he's doing on the field. Because as you saw tonight, he had 2 3-ball counts. You guys think when up 3 runs, he wants to put Gunnar Henderson back at the plate to tie
Absolutely
the
not.
game? Of course not. Gunnar Henderson, he made some hard contact, I believe, twice in this game, and he's one swing away, especially with that type of talent, with Rauschman right behind him. Those guys can tie the game and take a lead in a hurry. And we've seen much worse teams do
Yeah.
that to Clay Holmes this year. Clay Holmes wasn't trying to put anybody on base, right?
No.
Let alone hitting somebody. So I would say he's not necessarily implying that it was intentional. It was more like the Mike Fiers, Giancarlo Stanton situation where it's like, come on, man, like you're hitting me. And not in a sense of intent, but just being frustrated that you got hit. But you also have to have feel as a young player and knowing situationally, it would be a disaster for me to get hit right now with a pitch from his point of view. So you
Yeah.
should know, no intention whatsoever. He's probably just as frustrated as you are. Obviously, maybe not as much, but he's incredibly frustrated that he's hitting a young player who, frankly, wouldn't have got on base any other way. And that's frustrating in itself. So I didn't understand the chirping. And then, of course, after the play, he's like, oh, the dugout's screaming something. Well, no shit, the dugout's going to say something. You were chirping. They're going to say something to you. You
I don't.
already know from the Yankees dugout, they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're trying to hit you, you moron. Right? So you can get pissed all you want, but the Yankees dugout's going to respond if you're chirping about the intent of a pitch. I mean, let's get serious.
Yeah, they're trying. I mean, no matter how bad the Yankees have been this year, they've never, quit on themselves. I mean, you could definitely see it's a well knit unit. Okay. And I'm sorry. I mean, guys like Garrett Cole, especially a guy like Rodon, is going to be like, no, and he's going to take the side of Clay Holmes, and he's going to be like, no, I go to work with him every day. He would never do that. Okay. I just think it's a bad look on Brandon Hyde. You saw Aaron Boone. He was pretty composed the entire time. A guy that's known for getting thrown out of games like crazy. And look at how composed he was throughout the whole thing. He was trying to stop it, but he wasn't trying to start anything. And I've never really liked Brandon Hyde. I don't know. He just kind of always bothered me. And I felt like today was kind of a reason. I couldn't put my finger as to why, but I mean, today it was just kind of like, I don't care what the history is. You have to use your stupid head, okay? Because
He's
the
been playing
reality
baseball
is,
since he was a little leaguer. I mean, let's keep it
I
real.
mean, I'm sorry. I hear that all the time. Well, you don't understand the history. I cover the Yankees now full time. We'll just say that with you, Gary. I know the history, okay? I know that they plunked Judge. I know that the Yankees retaliated with Gunnar Henderson. Maybe they didn't. But the point is, you made a big deal about it and said that was the reason you won the game, okay? The Yankees would not retaliate with a chance to win against the Orioles and make this a one game back in the AL East. They would not
We
blow
can't
this.
risk. There's nothing we would
No,
put over that. It's
this
the
is
most
one of the
important
most
thing going on.
important games of the year.
Yeah, it is.
And
And we said
based on
before the
what we've
series
seen,
started, we don't expect to win this series. We're off to a great start. And I'll say this, Garrett Cole delivered everything. He didn't look, I tweeted, I was like, he looks like 2011 Phil Hughes. He was spinning cutters, throwing a bunch of breaking balls. He didn't know where his pitches were going.
He looked great, though.
But towards the end of the second inning, he got locked in with the old number one fastball. And he was up to 97, 98 consistently today. It was something to behold. It was exactly what we needed. And by the way, Jake, I have to bring this up about that whole benches clearing joke that we watched and how it can be productive for the Yankees. And I really believe this. I do.
Did DJ LeMahieu throw a punch that could get him suspended for 20 games?
Oh, my gosh. It honestly would make us a better team. But think of it this way. There are multiple players. I know you did. Multiple players on our roster offensively. Okay, we're not talking about pitchers. Offensive players. And I'll name them. I'm not going to chicken out here. Gleyber Torres, Alex Verdugo, Anthony Volpe, Jose Trevino. Okay? Those guys, which is essentially the brunt of the bottom of our order today. Now, a lot of those guys have been struggling. And you can tell, especially by watching Alex Verdugo, that he's more concerned with himself than he is with team. Now, he would tell you that, well, I'm frustrated because I'm not able to help my team. That's what's frustrating me. But in actuality, if he was that frustrated, about not helping his team instead of worrying about what he's doing individually, he would have a lot more composure in the batter's box. And I wanted to bring this up to you on the show because this is baseball at the end of the day. It's supposed to be fun. These guys are making millions of dollars. Now, some are making a lot more than others, but
Yeah.
Alex Verdugo is making a pretty penny to go play for the New York Yankees, a job that millions of people would love to have. And he's acting like it's the end of the world because he's 15 for his last 65 or whatever it is. It's not that big of a deal. Go out there, take some better swings, stop taking pitches right down the middle. It's eventually going to turn itself around. But to sit here and make it seem like, I want to equate it to something. It's kind of like going to work, and we've all had terrible jobs. Jake, I'm sure you've had an atrocious job. And listening to a coworker complain every day about how bad that job is, it makes the job worse. It makes it harder to watch. It actually makes it harder for yourself to work. So in my opinion, I know Michael Kay was broadcasting it today. He was like, oh, Verdugo's not even attempting to run to first base. Okay. That's exactly how he said it. Now, Michael Kay is essentially calling you out. Now, he didn't say you need to run. No, he was like, oh, he's going to give us that information and then let us draw the conclusion about what we should think about it. That's what he was doing in that moment. Alex Verdugo's thinking of himself. Go play baseball. It's supposed to be fun. I want to have more fun watching you play. And when you're not performing and you're low energy, you're sulking, your shoulders are down, every call is just Little behind the plate today. The home plate umpire was Stuart Little back there. He was blind. He didn't have a clue what was going on. Obviously, Trevino's framing probably had some effect on the strike zone, but I don't think it had a ton. The strike zone was terrible today. But for Verdugo to sit here and just, grunting on every pitch, at some point, you just need to accept what everyone else is getting from the strike zone and learn to make adjustments, or just accept that today maybe isn't your day and find another way to make an impact, whether it's defensively or on the base paths.
I agree. To the Michael K point, he called out, kind of called out DJ LeMahieu. He's like, and DJ LeMahieu is going to be 0 for 5.
He made 5 outs today. Insane.
I know. Aaron Judge almost walked as many times as he got out.
You know what someone told me on Twitter? This is just blasphemous. Someone said, from my tweet, I was like, for what reason would DJ LeMahieu be hitting leadoff today? And someone says, well, I'm actually going to defend Boone here a little bit. And I'm always open-minded to these takes.
No,
I really am.
I'm curious now.
I'm very curious. So I read this tweet. He says, well, I mean, he has 5 hits in his last 16 at-bats. You know, he's hitting at a 300 clip. And I told the guy, and I don't respond to these messages often, but every once in a while, this guy goes, yeah, well, he's hitting about 300 his last 16 appearances at the plate. And I said, well, which player is it in Major League Baseball history at any point in a 16 at-bat span doesn't hit 300? Every single player. Jahmai Jones, by the way, you mentioned him earlier in the show. Jahmai Jones at some point in this season was hitting 350 over a 15 at-bat span. You know, You're just going to have to wait for which period of time that is. Are you going to move Jahmai Jones to the 2-hole? No.
Well, I mean, at this point, if the bar is this low, Jahmai Jones should just lead off, because who even cares at this point? I mean, really, if we're going to put DJ LeMahieu out, I could not even believe my eyes almost popped out of my head. Okay. By the way, Ryan Garcia on Twitter, I thought this was really fascinating. I think I sent this over to you last night. The only hitters who have a better than average swing rate at pitches in the heart of the zone. Okay. 73.3% on the Yankees. The heart of the zone. Austin Wells, 88.1%. Okay. Has a better than average swing rate at pitches in the heart of the zone.
What does a swing rate mean? Just like the rate, swinging often at pitches in the zone.
Yeah. He's not taking pitches right down the plate.
Okay.
So it's funny because people just assume, Austin Wells works counts. Well, Austin Wells is trying to hit the ball in play if he gets a hold of one, right? A lot of these guys are taking that approach. Remember, big thing, if you guys were here, and obviously there's a lot of newbies now because, I mean, we kind of blew up and we appreciate it.
Yeah, we're growing at a very rapid pace for sure.
But way back when we had 300 subscribers and, we tried to do a live stream and had 11 people live. Appreciate you, 11 people. Right around that time, we were talking about approach, right? It was approach at the play. Oh, we love this team's approach. What was the big buzzword? Approach. Well, guess what? There are still guys that have that same approach, but they're not hitting pitches in the zone. They're
just
taking the
pitches.
first strike, okay? But they're not Derek Jeter to come back in an 0-1 count.
Right.
So Wells, 88.1% of the time, if a pitch is in the heart of the strike zone, he's swinging. Ben Rice, 80.7% of the time, he's swinging. Anthony Volpe, 74.2, and Aaron Judge, 73.6. Now, I want to make note of this. Anthony Volpe is barely ahead of the average, right?
Okay. So around 70 is the average.
But he needs to be in the 80s, in my opinion. I think everybody needs to be in the 80s. And the thing with Judge being barely above the average, Aaron Judge and Juan Soto can do what they do. Because Aaron Judge also, this does not take into account, this is not weighted when you get a 3-0 count, goes right down the plate. And yeah, Judge has the green light, but you're not going to always give up a 3-0 count. So, Judges is kind of there. And then Juan Soto is below average because he's incredibly patient. He wants the exact pitch that he wants to get. And so if you're Juan Soto, I don't care how many pitches you take. Okay. No one is bitching when Juan Soto takes a strike right down the plate. People are bitching.
In general, like this is the thing. If you do damage with pitches that aren't necessarily, hitters' pitches, like Juan Soto and Aaron Judge consistently do, we're not going to worry about how often you're swinging at that pitch right down the middle. How many people, when Aaron Judge hit his 30, I think it was 33rd or 34th homer today, might be 34. How many people were worried about him taking a pitch right down the middle? We're not. But I'll tell you when we are. Do you remember this last game we covered? And you were saying, yeah, they sent Jose Trevino up there and he went up there and just didn't even make an attempt at swinging. Having an approach, and there's a difference between trying to walk and walking. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
If you go up to the plate, you can't say someone has a ton of plate discipline if they had no intention on swinging the bat. You're going to take really close pitches if you never swing. And that's a problem. Part of hitting's really hard. It's the hardest thing to do in American sports. But at some point, you got to put guys on the field that are going to make an attempt, make a pass at a pitch at the heart of the plate. If you're just taking those pitches consistently, you're swinging at the pitch right down the middle like 65% of the time, and then when you do, you don't make hard contact. Well, I feel like I have enough data where I can conclude you're not a good enough at bat to be a New York Yankee. That's where we are. That's the situation that we're in. When you get pitches at the heart of the zone, you shouldn't be thinking, well, hold on a second. Juan Soto takes a lot of these pitches in the zone. You aren't Juan Soto. You're a different player. You need to be much better in this department. And that is hitting. Today, when we mentioned DJ LeMahieu and him making 5 outs, a lot of times if you watch guys like LeMahieu and Gleyber Torres right now, they're taking a lot of really good pitches to hit or fouling them off and swinging and offering at pitches that are on the corners. And the better the hitter, the more often you see them swing at really good pitches to hit. That's the reason why, ladies and gentlemen, if you go look at the highlights on Baseball Tonight and all the sexy highlights on Scott Van Pelt, they're going to show you. And if they're going to show you highlights from Shohei
ESPN
Ohtani,
shows highlights of baseball?
Every once in a while, they'll show it at like 11 o'clock at night.
They'll show a home run.
They'll show
that was the entire game.
Go watch the best players in Major League Baseball. Go watch their highlights on YouTube. The best baseball players in Major League history. Tell me which pitches they are that they're actually driving 450 feet into the night. All those fun homers you used to see from Ken Griffey Jr., all those pitches are right down the middle.
Exactly.
Every single one of them. That's the way hitting works. You're essentially up at the plate, and if you get a pitch middle, you need to do damage.
No doubt.
And as the count goes on, you get 1 strike, 2 strikes on you, the damage dwindles. That's the game that baseball is. So we're saying all this, right, to conclude that there are a lot of guys on our roster that aren't talented enough to not make offers at pitches, middle. And it's the point you're making, Jake. There's some guys, and I will say this, I want to give Jahmai Jones and Trevino credit because offensively today, it was a huge boost. It absolutely was.
Absolutely.
We needed runs from the bottom of the lineup. We got that. no one expected the production to come from where it came, obviously outside of Aaron Judge, wildly expected, especially against Baltimore. And Garrett Cole, it almost feels like Garrett Cole, for the most part, dominates. But in situations where we really need him, a huge game, whether it be against Boston or teams in division, he usually struggles. Today, he delivered. We had to have it, especially with Baltimore being undermanned. You actually said, Baltimore, we should shellac them today. They have to win today. They won. So let's give them credit where it's due.
Yeah, I had a really good feeling when I saw Povich in there, and I was like, oh, they need to, and they didn't really dominate him.
Nope.
He gave them 5, base runners. I mean, he walked 5 guys. Then he, gave up 5 hits. So, I mean, technically he put 10 guys on base today. And, I think, the name of the game, when it comes to runners in scoring position, you have to be able to do something. Torres 0 for 1, LeMahieu 0 for 1, Volpe 0 for 1, Soto 1 for 1, Cabrera 0 for 1, Rice 0 for 1, Jahmai Jones 1 for 2, Trevino 1 for 1, Verdugo 0 for 2. So the guys that came through today with runners in scoring position, Jones, as you mentioned, Trevino, as you mentioned, and Soto, those guys deserve a lot of praise. Now, this is where I have my issue with the lineup. This is where Boone comes in, because Aaron Judge hit a home run and it was a solo shot, because the previous time you had LeMahieu ground into a double play and then Juan Soto strikes out. Okay. Judge could have been up in the top of the second. It had LeMahieu not grounded in the double play. And maybe that home run still happens, and instead, you have a runner on there or 2 runners on. And so that's where giving one of the worst hitters in the lineup, not, just saying that. I mean, statistically.
Wait, hold on. Is he not the worst hitter? I mean, I know we keep saying like this buzzword of one of the worst. Is DJ LeMahieu not our worst offensive player? In my opinion, he absolutely is. Let me go break it down for everybody. Okay?
He's got to be,
and I
right?
think you'll agree. He doesn't make hard contact, okay? And with hard contact, if you don't make hard contact consistently, you will not hit home runs, okay?
Is Grisham better?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay. So
Trent Grisham is a better offensive player. Yeah.
So if you have Grisham ahead of him, then there's no one else. I mean, Vivas right now I think is better than LeMahieu, and I haven't even seen him hit in the majors.
He doesn't hit for contact. He puts the ball on the ground in situations where you need the ball elsewhere. They eventually turn into double plays. I think that's the running joke right now in New York, is how often DJ LeMahieu grounds into double plays. And I actually made a joke at the beginning of this game. I said, the nice part is that DJ LeMahieu hitting leadoff, he won't roll in as many double plays, because one of his at-bats today, he's going to hit with nobody on. That's brilliant. Great work from Boone. I was being sarcastic, of course. But he eventually rolls into a double play, his second at-bat of the game. It is what it is, right? And that's going to happen if you get any production out of Jahmai Jones or Trevino. He's going to roll into double plays. And I don't know many teams in baseball that are like, who should hit leadoff today? Our worst player in the whole roster.
That's the thing. You just broke Pandora's box isn't open. It's shattered. It's destroyed. I mean, it doesn't even exist anymore. When you put DJ LeMahieu in 2024 as a leadoff hitter, I don't want to hear, well, so-and-so can't lead off, because no, you've made it so literally anyone at this point can lead off. Anyone can be a cleanup hitter. Anyone can hit anywhere they want in the Yankees lineup. Anyone could be on the Yankees, because that's why that bothered me so much with him leading off. And by the way, we're talking about this after the Yankees just had one of the biggest wins of the year. We're not trying to be negative, but we know that we are kind of a sounding board, and a lot of you are feeling the same way, because we put it out there on our YouTube comment section, or whatever it's called, posting section. I put out a post and I was like, breaking, Yorby Vivas is getting called up. And there were quite a few people that, I never see this, by the way, but quite a few people were like, that's great, but we'll see if he's in the lineup. I didn't even think
These
about
people
that.
are hardened. These people are just so
Warriors
used to inadequacy.
at the core.
By the way, look at our lineup. Look at our lineup today. Let's go from the top. DJ LeMahieu, okay? Then we go to Ben Rice,
He did
Gleyber
nothing
Torres,
today.
Alex Verdugo, Anthony Volpe. Has Wells hit leadoff at all today or at all in the season?
No, but
Even won it?
he'd be the best option.
Think of it this way. I just gave you 5 baseball players in our lineup today who have hit leadoff for the Yankees this year. And you just said, yeah, Austin Wells, I think he'd be a better option than what we've really got going on. I think we like Ben Rice hitting fourth, right, for the time being, right, until Stanton comes back.
Just
But
because the power.
I just listed
potential.
5 players that we've thrown into the leadoff spot. If that's not proof enough that Brian Cashman has to get busy, whether it be for whatever his name is in Miami, right? Who's the player that we keep
feel
talking
for
about?
Brian Cashman calling up Vivas and then having the manager not play him. Are you freaking kidding me? Not only that, this is the day you're like, you know what we should do? LeMahieu lead off. Brian Cashman's like, no, what are you doing?
His ops is 500. We might as well.
His on base percentage
send
is
anybody up there.
285. Okay, the only one who has a worse on base percentage is Cabrera, who, by the way, pinch hit for Ben Rice.
Oh yeah,
We're
because they
doing that
said
again?
that we wanted to get a look against a lefty. Why?
No,
Why would you do that?
Dumb. That shit is dumb. It happened yesterday. It happened today. Yeah, Aaron Boone is. Even though they won this game, I'm kind of falling along the same side of you. I mean, I'm not saying Aaron Boone needs to be fired. But I'm getting tired of these little things. And it's not just, and I think you did a good job of explaining it, last episode. It's not just yesterday's thing. And I saw this in the comment section as well. It's not about yesterday. It's the constant, this has been going on for year after year after year with no World Series appearance to show for it. I mean, if the Yankees made the World Series and lost this year, people would still be upset. They'd be upset that they didn't win it all. But the reality is, if they get to a World Series this year, I think it's a winning season. To come back from last year.
But I appreciate you admitting it.
Yeah, I mean, to come back from last year not making the playoffs, and to have the injuries that you've had, and I understand other teams have done that, but right now, if they were to go to the World Series this year and say they lose in Game 7, I'm not calling for Boone's head. I mean, I'd have to see how it went down, of course. But
yeah, because you never know. He might Dave Roberts us.
I'm not calling for Boone's head, but like the point I'm making here is, that would be a success. If the Yankees don't make the playoffs, Boone has to go. If the Yankees make the playoffs and lose in the wild card, Boone has to go.
Which is funny because Girardi was fired after losing Game 7 of the ALCS.
Oh, I know. It was so ridiculous. The year before made more sense to fire Girardi, not that year.
And then they said, remember they told us, they said, well, I mean, we got cheated in 2017. I'm like, really? Then why'd you fire your manager?
Yeah, I know.
Didn't it make sense? If you give your manager so much credit and your team so much credit, why wouldn't he still be there? And then they said, well, we're just going in a different direction. No, the different direction was analytically. Aaron Boone was a guy who would do what it is that he's told. Now, he started to venture and kind of stray from the status quo. But as you see, some of these moves that he's making using his head and not analytics, as he keeps saying, it's not working. What part of your brain told you that DJ LeMahieu should be hitting leadoff today? Like, what told you that?
Also,
all the personnel aside, who's to be called up, it's about who you're using. And so, we'll talk about like the positives of this game, but in general, there's so much to be upset about because the games are still to be played. We still have a game tomorrow. Right?
And hitting leadoff is literally saying you want DJ LeMahieu, if push comes to shove, to have the most at bats on the team. Are you freaking mad? And he had quite 5 amazing today. He had 5. I mean, imagine what Trevino would have done with another at bat. He was hitting the ball well. Imagine what, it's like, that's the thing. But I mean, the reality of it is they got the win. And that's the most important thing. We're annoyed about Vivas getting called up. And, what's actually kind of funny is it goes to show you if they're not going to play him, like this whole time, because keep in mind, the entire purpose of not calling him up is so he gets these reps. So you just called him up for a day so he wouldn't
and he
play.
Took a day off. He took a day off. For what? And dude, having DJ LeMahieu lead off in front of Juan Soto and Aaron Judge is literally like going to see like Oppenheimer, right? Great movie. And then running a preview before the movie of like The Sandlot 4 or something like that. That's what it
There's
is.
been 3 Sandlots.
Yes, they've all been just absolute dog water. They've been horrible. The first one, excellent, excellent movie. One of the best movies of all time.
I'm disturbed
And the
by that.
second and third and Going Home, terrible movies. DJ LeMahieu is like the worst appetizer ever, before your favorite restaurant. That's
so
all this
soggy
is.
French fries.
Yeah, it would be like a steakhouse just running out like Wendy's chicken nuggets before. That's the situation that we're in, and we know.
5 Guys running out of Cajun fries.
Oh, I just go home. Which, you know what I really like though, Jake, is that we don't necessarily care personnel-wise about what the team looks like, and as long as output-wise, we're getting what we want.
Yeah.
And Jahmai Jones is a player I was fairly upset about to have him on this roster. I said, you mean to tell me you guys don't have something better in the farm system than Jahmai Jones? And long and behold, Jahmai Jones is actually giving us an output, so much so that the majority of our comment section, which you could read below, you're not going to hear any complaints about Jahmai Jones, despite that disappointment that pretty much everyone else had, right? We said Dominguez should be on the roster ahead of him. We said Jones could be on the roster ahead of him. But long and behold, if you give us an output, we'll find someone else's name to replace. And so that's the situation.
Your Urshela's come out of nowhere. Because we don't care about the name, and that's a great point, Gary. We don't care about the name. If DJ LeMahieu was hitting 320, I don't have a pick on DJ LeMahieu. I have a pick on DJ LeMahieu in 2024, the way he's playing. If DJ LeMahieu, after the All-Star break, goes back to hitting the way he was at the end of last year, by all means, we're going to probably be advocating for him to stay in the lineup. Of course, that depends on what they do at the deadline. If they made a bunch of moves and then DJ LeMahieu started hitting, and now all of those moves that you made, now you're like, oh yeah, we don't have anywhere to put, Jazz Chisholm or Jonathan India, and now you're benching Jonathan India for LeMahieu. That would just be ridiculous.
India or Chisholm, I would say India. Both of those pickups. India is a horrible defensive player, but at the very least, you know what you're going to get on one side of the ball. Right now, at second base and third base, it's clear what we're getting. We're getting a defensively, at least analytically, a really good third baseman in DJ LeMahieu. He's obviously not fleet of foot, but he fields the balls at him. Absolutely. Okay?
That was a crazy play today. I could not believe.
Very good play today.
Yeah.
Analytically, he's good over there defensively. I know the eye test may look otherwise, but second base, analytically, and both with our eye tests, we've got an underperforming offensive and defensive player. So you can go bring India on this team. He's the clear leadoff hitter. It's not close. Okay. And it's a massive upgrade for the Yankees. Chisholm or India. You take your pick. There are plenty of players out there in Major League Baseball that would be massive upgrades for this team offensively at the leadoff position. And so I think Brian Cashman's got options. And I know he's not the guy that I really necessarily want out there shopping for my organization, but it is what it is. It's a situation that we're covering, and I don't have any control over who the general manager is as much as I would like to have it.
No, I hear you. And I think like with Vivas say not playing, it makes you wonder like, okay, well, he got called up to the bigs, so his value kind of went up because it shows, oh, they actually are high on him. And maybe just maybe he's called up just to increase his value so he could be traded. I hope not. I don't think so because they traded for him. This is a guy they gave up a first round selection that they made with Trey Sweeney to basically say, you know what? We like this infielder more. Like they really wanted Vivas from the Dodgers. So to me, that doesn't seem like a guy that they're trying to trade away, but you never know. I really don't think Gleyber's going to be on this team much longer. I know he walked 3 times today.
What would you say the odds are that we see him after the break?
I'd say 80% he's gone.
That's heavy.
Yeah,
that's heavy.
I don't see it. I know he's hitting decently high in the order. Like it'd be kind of a dead giveaway if he's hitting 8th or 9th, but I don't see it. And the reason I don't see it is because I think once upon a time, the Yankees absolutely wanted to bring him back. I think after last year, the Yankees' plan was to bring him and Soto back. And then they realized, you know what? Juan Soto's actually better than maybe we thought he was going to be. And it's going to be that much harder to bring back Juan Soto. So we can't have anybody in the way. But we definitely can't have anybody in the way that's hitting 223 at second base, a position that's not shortstop. If shortstop, shortstop, you're not supposed to have a ton of power, right? That's why it was such a big deal when like A-Rod hit 57 home runs with the Rangers, because shortstops don't have that type of pop normally. But Torres is playing second base. He's a rejected shortstop. A lot of people already forgot that. He could not play shortstop. That was a big thing. And now the pop's gone. The average isn't there. I don't want to just completely douse him in flames, but I mean, the reality is, if you look at this team, the guys that I feel comfortable with that will be here after the All-Star break and after the trade deadline: Soto, Judge, Rice, Volpe. I wouldn't even say Verdugo's safe. I could see them flipping Verdugo. I'm
I
not
for
saying they
sure
will.
can see the Verdugo thing.
I
Sure.
really don't think anybody's safe except for Soto, Judge, Rice, and Wells and
Okay.
Volpe. Because I don't think they're gonna give up on Volpe.
No, because that would be a huge development for them to give
that
up
would
on
be
Anthony
Cashman
Volpe.
admitting that they had so many opportunities to trade him. And keep in mind, they never admitted to Peraza. We still have no idea what the hell's going on. I saw the other day, I don't know if it was from like a valid source, but it was something about Peraza's been having like injury. He had injury complications or whatever, or, something that was holding him back. And I'm like, okay, I mean, if that's the case and they just really they're trying to stick with him and it's just not, he's just not getting like, fine. But I don't buy it. I really don't. I think they just totally ruined him. And I think that they, like, at this point, his
Would it be the
confidence is
first guy
shot.
that you've seen?
No,
Really?
Clint
How often
Frazier.
do the Yankees do this?
Clint
Right? We've
Frazier.
mentioned Florial, Frazier.
Yeah.
You can. The
Well, yeah,
list goes on.
Florio.
Yankees prospects. They don't know when to call them up. They don't know what to say about him when they're asked about him. They just say, "We believe in the kid." You never see him. Which person is it that you believe in that you never give an opportunity to? It doesn't really happen, right? So what they were doing and what they were saying were two opposite things. Which, by the way, Jake, I just put this together, and it pains me to say this, but I really think, and this is not me saying I think Gleyber Torres should be a real part of the Yankees' future, but I really think that Gleyber Torres, I think he loves playing with the Yankees. I believe this. I'll say this. I think Gleyber's playing himself in a situation where he's playing bad enough where the Yankees might see him
The
as
D'Angelo Russell card.
they might see him as a situation where, remember that asking price at the beginning of the year? It was floated around of 5 years, 100 million, just a nice solid round number.
I've actually had this in my mind, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, so you might look at the situation and say, well, Gleyber Torres at 5 years, 100 million, he's played his way into that conversation. He's wildly inconsistent, but that's the market. If you play well enough, you can get that money. Well, the Yankees might look at this situation and say, well, he's clearly hitting 223. His on base is about 300, so it's putrid. He's not playing good defensively. Last year, which was a good year for him objectively, he struck out 98 times. He's got 84 strikeouts already this season, okay? In 60 less games. So it's not the same player. They might look at Gleyber and say, hey, well, now you've played yourself into this little 4-year contract for $32 million a year. And then guess what?
IKF
the Yankees
money.
The Yankees can argue 2 of the last 3 seasons, Gleyber Torres has been an excellent offensive player. He hit 24 homers in 2022. He hit 25 last year. We called him the second best offensive player on the team outside of Aaron Judge, right? So the Yankees can honestly say, yeah, we'll give you $10 million a year or $8.5 million a year.
I think they would do that.
You've played yourself into this contract and then hope to God that he's going to go out there and go back to his median season, which there's absolutely a possibility. Am I saying that they should do this? No. Is it something Brian Cashman would think about doing? Yes.
Yeah, I don't want to say they will do that because, again, I'm pretty like 80-20. But I've had that in my mind as well. Like, same thing like D'Angelo Russell, like, oh, how are the Lakers going to keep him? And then all of a sudden his value dropped and it was like, oh, okay, so it's going to be that easy.
2 threes during the playoffs, and they're like, "Oh, well, I guess he's back."
Yeah, like that's the thing is that value comes and it goes, unless you're Juan Soto. But I mean, it really does. I mean, the reality is like your value can be great and everything. We saw Cody Bellinger, so I'm just going to be honest with you. I actually kind of I see what you're saying. I'm not saying he'll be back. but I do see what you're saying. Let's wrap this up with tomorrow's game, the normally scheduled one, not the Sunday hellhole that starts at 11:30 a.m. So like
Be up
you're
for
not even going to be
breakfast.
up. Maybe you
No,
will.
I've got a baby. I'll probably be like
Maybe the
burping her
baby will wake you
watching
up.
this game. Yeah.
The baby wants to watch it. 8:30 a.m. Are you serious? On
It's a joke.
Gary's side of the world, not mine. I'm
Right.
on the East Coast, so. But yeah, tomorrow's 4:05, so we don't love that, but it's not awful. Got Luis Heel coming off a very good outing, his last outing, going up against Grayson Rodriguez. Both pitchers are very good. They're young, stud pitchers. Rodriguez, his issue, he gives up a lot of hits. Luis Heel doesn't give up anywhere near as many hits. Rodriguez has given up 85 and 94 and 2/3. In 96 and a third, Heel's only given up 57. Heel has 6 more strikeouts at 111, and he has 18 more walks. Although, keep in mind, Heel's walks were bad early on in the year. He's really gotten good at not walking guys. He's given up 9 home runs. Rodriguez has given up 10. This is a very balanced, like a very well-balanced pitchers duel. I'm excited for tomorrow.
We're going to see B-Boss at second base tomorrow, by the way, just to let you know. And I'll tell you why. DJ LeMahieu has a nice career going against Grayson Rodriguez, and Gleyber Torres does not. He's hitting 167.
You're giving him way too much credit.
I know. But I'm trying to think my way through the situation of what a good manager would do. And maybe, just maybe, Aaron Boone will have this episode sent to him, because I know there's been some people in the Yankees world that have had our stuff sent to them. But the numbers say that that's what they would do if they were smart. But I'm not going to say a smart person would necessarily put DJ LeMahieu in a lineup, because I don't think DJ or Gleyber should frankly be part of the lineup right now. But based on those short-term numbers, I'm expecting to see B-Boss at second base tomorrow night.
I hope so. Well, that's going to do it. Yankees are 1 game out of first place in the AL East, and they still have a shot. If they sweep the Orioles in this one and they win 2 of the last 3 games and then the last series of the year, they actually would take over the tiebreaker. Now, that's winning 5 straight. So it's
I'm
a
not
lot
banking
easier
on that.
said than
I'm
done.
banking on just flat out outrunning them. Is it likely?
Yeah, no,
not really. But we have to have a super dynamic deadline. And if we do, then maybe we've got a puncher's chance to outrun Baltimore. And I get it. Like, we're 1 game back. But the way the Yankees are playing, we've lost 8 series in a row. That leads you to believe, okay, down the stretch, we're going to get outrun. So, but having said that, let's go win tomorrow. And then I guess you never know. But I didn't expect to come into this series with a sweep. That's not what I essentially needed. I need to win this series. That's essentially all I care about.
Well, you win tomorrow and you win the series. Pressure's off. Actually, pressure's on the Orioles, because they would lose 5 straight. They'd be going up against the grain right before the All-Star break. I mean,
yep.
Yeah. And Sunday's the draft as well. So we'll see which, new Yankee prospect is going to be. Of course, they'll draft more than just the first round, but we'll touch on that a little bit as well. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Kind of a all over the place episode. There's some good, there's some bad, there's kind of some ugly. I mean, pinch hitting Ben Rice for Oswaldo Cabrera goes in the ugly category. Having LeMahieu as your leadoff hitter goes in the ugly category, but they won. And, that's really all that matters at the end of the day. If the Yankees continue to win, we don't care who's in the lineup as long as they end up getting the W. So that's going to do it. We appreciate you guys. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And you can follow us on our social media below. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
And like this video.